Hey guys, good morning. We're going to be continuing our chapter Book of Wonder today. Yesterday we left off in the middle of a chapter. The boys had just gotten back to where the movie was being played and they were sitting down with the girls. So we're just going to pick up right where we left off. The last sentence I had just read was, in a way, everything was exactly as we had left it before we went looking for the toilets. The sky was the same, the movie was the same, everyone's faces were the same. Mine was the same. But something was different. Something had changed. I could see Amos and Miles and Henry telling their group what had just happened. I knew they were talking about it because they kept looking over at me while they were talking. Even though the movie was still playing, people were whispering about it in the dark. News like that spreads fast. It was what everyone was talking about on the bus ride back to the cabins. All the girls, even the girls I didn't know very well, were asking me if I was okay. The boys were all talking about getting revenge on the group of seventh graders who tried jumping us, trying to figure out what school they were from. I wasn't planning on telling the teachers about any of what happened, but they found out anyway. Maybe it was the torn sweatshirt or the bloody elbow. Or maybe it's just that teachers hear everything. Because we do, you guys know this. When we got back to the camp, Mr. Tushman took me to the first aid office. And while I was getting my elbow cleaned and bandaged up by the camp nurse, Mr. Tushman and the camp director were in the next room talking with Amos and Jack and Henry and Miles, trying to get a description of the troublemakers. When he asked me about them a little later, I said I couldn't remember their faces at all, which wasn't true. I just didn't want to be a snitch. It's their faces I kept seeing every time I closed my eyes to sleep. The look of total horror on the girl's face when she saw me for the first time. The way the kid with the flashlight, Eddie, looked at me as he talked to me, like he hated me, like a lamb to the slaughter. I remember Dad saying that ages ago, but tonight, I think I finally got what it meant. Poor Augie. Next chapter is called Aftermath. Mom was waiting for me in front of the school along with all the other parents when the bus arrived. Mr. Tushman told me on the bus ride home that they had called my parents to tell them there had been a situation the night before, but that everyone was fine. He said the camp director and several of the counselors went looking for the hearing aid in the morning while we all went swimming in the lake, but they couldn't find it anywhere. Briarwood would reimburse us the cost of the hearing aid, he said. They felt bad about what happened. I wondered if Eddie had taken my hearing aids with him as a kind of souvenir, something to remember the orc. Mom gave me a tight hug when I got off the bus, but she didn't slam me with questions like I thought she might. Her hug felt good, and I didn't shake it off like some of the other kids were doing with their parents' hugs. I loved it. The bus driver started unloading our duffel bags, and I went to find mine while Mom talked to Mr. Tushman and Miss Rubin, who had walked over to her. As I rolled my bag toward her, a lot of kids who don't usually say anything to me were nodding hello or patting my back as I walked by. Ready? Mom said when she saw me. She took my duffel bag, and I didn't even try to hold on to it. I was fine with her carrying it. If she wanted to carry me on her shoulders, I would have been fine with that too, to be truthful. As we started to walk away, Mr. Tushman gave me a quick, tight hug but didn't say anything. Next chapter is called Home. Mom and I didn't talk much the whole walk home, and when we got to the front stoop, I automatically looked in the front bay window because I forgot for a second that Daisy wasn't going to be there like always, perched on the sofa with her front paws on the windowsill, waiting for us to come home. It made me kind of sad when we walked inside. As soon as we did, Mom dropped my duffel bag and wrapped her arms around me and kissed me on my head and my face like she was breathing me in. "It's okay, Mom. I'm fine," I said, smiling. She nodded and took my face in her hands. Her eyes were so shiny. "I know you are," she said. "I missed you so much, Augie." I missed you too. I could tell she wanted to say a lot of things, but she was stopping herself. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "Starving. Can I have a grilled cheese?" "Of course," she answered, and immediately started to make the sandwich, while I took my jacket off and sat down on the kitchen counter, or at the kitchen counter. "Where's Via?" I asked. "She's coming home with Dad today. Boy, did she miss you, Augie," Mom said. "Yeah? She would have liked the nature reserve. You know what movie they played?" This was a question yesterday. The Sound of Music, or 2 days ago. You'll have to tell her that. So, do you want to hear about the bad part first or the good part first? I asked after a few minutes, leaning my head on my hand. Whatever you want to talk about, she answered. Well, except for last night, I had an awesome time, I said. I mean, it was just awesome. That's why I'm so bummed. I feel like they ruined the whole trip for me. No, sweetie, don't let them do that to you. You were there for more than 48 hours, and that apple part lasted only 1 hour. Don't let them take that away from you, okay? I know, I nodded. Did Mr. Tushman tell you about the hearing aids? Yes, he called us this morning. Was Dad mad? Because they're so expensive? Oh my gosh, of course not, Augie. He just wanted to know that you were all right. That's all that matters to us. And that you don't let those boys ruin your trip. I kind of laughed at the way she said the word boys. What? She asked. Boys. I teased her. Okay, I'll call them jerks, or morons, or imbeciles, she said, flipping over the sandwich pan. Creantos, as my mother would have said. Whatever you want to call them. If I saw them on the street, I would. She shook her head. They were pretty big, Mom, I smiled. 7th graders, I think. She shook her head. 7th graders? Mr. Tushman didn't tell us that. Oh my goodness. Did he tell you how Jack stood up for me? I said, and Amos was like, bam! And he rammed right into the leader. They both crashed to the ground, like in a real fight. It was pretty awesome. Amos' lip was bleeding and everything. He told us there was a fight, but, she said, looking at me with her eyebrows raised, I'm just so grateful you and Amos and Jack are fine. When I think about what could have happened, she trailed off, flipping the grilled cheese again. My Montauk hoodie got totally shredded. Well, that can be replaced, she answered. She lifted the grilled cheese onto a plate and put the plate in front of me on the counter. Milk or white grape juice? Chocolate milk, please? I started devouring the sandwich. Oh, can you do it that special way you make it? With the froth? How did you and Jack end up at the edge of the woods in the first place? She said, pouring the milk into a tall glass. Jack had to go to the bathroom, I answered, my mouth full as I was talking. She spooned the chocolate powder and started rolling a small whisk between her palms really fast. But there was a huge line, and he didn't want to wait, so we went towards the woods to pee. She looked up at me while she was whisking. I know she was thinking that we shouldn't have done that. The chocolate milk in the glass now had a 2-inch froth on top. That looks good, Mom. Thanks. And then what happened? She said, putting the glass in front of me. I took a long drink of the chocolate milk. Is it okay if we don't talk about it right now? Oh, okay. I promise I'll tell you all about it later, when Dad and Via come home. I'll tell you every detail. I just don't want to have to tell the whole story over and over again, you know? Absolutely. I finished my sandwich in 2 more bites and gulped down the chocolate milk. Wow, you practically inhaled that sandwich. Do you want another one? She said. I shook my head and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. Mom, am I always going to have to worry about jerks like that? I asked. Like, when I grow up, is it always going to be like this? She didn't answer right away, but took my plate and glass and put them in the sink and rinsed them with water. There are always going to be jerks in the world, Augie, she said, looking at me. But I really believe, and Daddy really believes, that there are more good people on this earth than bad. That there are more good people to watch out for each other and take care of each other, just like Jack was there for you, and Amos, and those other kids. Oh yeah, Miles and Henry, I answered. They were awesome too. It's weird because Miles and Henry haven't even been really nice to me at all this year. Sometimes people surprise us, she said, rubbing the top of her head. I guess. Do you want another glass of chocolate milk? No, I'm good, I said. Thanks, Mom. Actually, I'm kind of tired. I didn't have a good sleep last night. You should take a nap. Thanks for leaving me Babu, by the way. You got my note? She smiled. I slept with him both nights. She was about to say something else when her cell phone rang, and she answered. She started beaming as she listened. Oh my goodness, really? What kind? She said excitedly. Yep, he's right here. He was about to take a nap. Want to say hi? Oh, okay. See you in 2 minutes. She clicked it off. That was Daddy, she said excitedly. He and Via are just down the block. He's not at work? I said. He left early because he couldn't wait to see you, she said. So don't take a nap quite yet. 5 seconds later, Dad and Via came through the door. I ran into Dad's arm, then he picked me up and spun me around and kissed me. He didn't let me go for a full minute until I said, Dad, it's okay. And then it was Via's turn. She kissed me all over like she used to do when I was little. It wasn't until she stopped that I noticed the big white cardboard box they had brought in with them. What is that? I said. Open it, said Dad, smiling, and he and Mom looked at each other like they knew a secret. Come on, Augie, said Via. I opened the box. Inside was the cutest little puppy I've ever seen in my life. It was black and furry with a pointy little snout and bright black eyes and small ears that flopped down. Next chapter, called Bear. I wonder if that's a dog's name. Oh, look at that. We called the puppy Bear because when Mom first saw him, she said he looked like a little bear cub. I said, that's what we should call him. And everyone agreed that was the perfect name. I took the next day off from school, not because my elbow was hurting me, which it was, but so I could play with Bear all day long. Mom let Via stay home from school too, so the two of us took turns cuddling with Bear and playing tug of war with him. We had kept all of Daisy's old toys, and we brought them out now to see which ones he liked best. It was fun hanging out with Via all day, just the two of us. It was like the old times, like before I started going to school. Back then, I couldn't wait for her to come home from school so she could play with me before starting her homework. Now that we're older, though, I'm going to school and I have friends of my own that I hang out with. We never do this anymore. So it was nice hanging out with her, laughing and playing. I think she liked it too. Next chapter is called The Shift. When I went back to school the next day, the first thing I noticed was that there was a big shift in the way things were. A monumental shift. A seismic shift. Maybe even a cosmic shift. Whatever you want to call it, it was a big shift. Everyone, not just in our grade, but every grade, had heard about what had happened to us 7th graders with the 7th graders. So suddenly, I wasn't known for what I'd always been known for, but this other thing that had happened. And the story of what happened had gotten bigger and bigger each time it was told. 2 days later, the way the story went was that Amos had gotten into a major fist fight with the kid, and Miles and Henry and Jack had thrown some punches at the other guys too. And the escape across the field became this whole long adventure through a cornfield maze and into a deep dark wood. Jack's version of the story was probably the best because he's so funny. In whatever version of the story, and no matter who was telling it, 2 things always stayed the same. I got picked on because of my face, and Jack defended me. And those guys, Amos, Henry, and Miles, protected me. And now they'd protected me, I was different to them. I was like one of them. They all called me little dude now, even the jocks. These big dudes I barely even knew before would knuckle punch me in the hallways. Other things that came out of it was that Amos became super popular, and Julian, because he missed the whole thing, was really out of the loop. Miles and Henry were hanging out with Amos all the time now, like they switched best friends. I'd like to be able to say that Julian started to treat me better too, but that wouldn't be true. He still gave me dirty looks across the room. He still never talked to me or Jack, but he was the only one who was like that now. And me and Jack, we couldn't care less. That's awesome. All right, guys, that's where we're going to end it for today. Make sure you go on and do the question of the day. And guys, we are so close to being done. Look at that. Look how much we've read. Look how much we have left. We're very close. All right, guys, see you tomorrow. Bye.